Hey guys, it's been a while, and apologize for the lighting, and there's clothes everywhere. Um, I'm re-recording this one. I did it earlier in the light, but it's kind of nighttime now, and I've done some washing, and I have to hang my washing in my room on various things in my room. So yeah, you can kind of, as you can see, case in point. Anyways, so we'll be doing a train analysis because I wanted to take a map from the major, and there was a train versus Navi, EnvyUs versus Navi, and then they did cobblestone. Cobblestone was rather one-sided, so I figured usually I wouldn't like to do train analysis because train is one of the more simple maps, and but I can I can go into that detail and explain why it's more simple. And I could just explain it right now, and I can jump into the game and load the demo just in a moment. So the thing with train is that train is a map whereby it's very difficult to abuse rotation of the CTs. So this impacts strategy in numerous ways, because if you, for example, contrast this factor with a Dust 2, a Mirage, a Cache, what are the other maps? Overpass, not as much, but a little bit. Overpass, you can abuse rotation a little bit. What are the other maps in pool? Cobblestone, yeah, you can. Cobblestone can be pretty ridiculous actually. How much you can abuse rotation. I'm sure I'm missing a map, but anyway, you more or less get the picture. So all these maps you can abuse CT rotation very heavily. So what does that mean? And if you're a bit more fresh to Counter-Strike or analysis in Counter-Strike, essentially it means you can if you get a kill on this, if let's say you're playing a pick-based strategy as a T's and you get a kill and you enter a 5 versus 4, or maybe a 4 versus 4, maybe a 3 versus 4, anything like that, basically anything that essentially affects the CTs and how they need to set up. Because if you imagine the way you start a match as a CT side, you start a match on the CT side and we have this setup, we have 2 guys here, 3 guys here, 2 guys here, 1 guy here, 2 guys here. You have your setup basically, which per map, depending on how you want to play and your loadout, is your optimal way to kind of default, kind of hold the map basically. So what happens when you remove one of these players? Obviously, you're thinning out the defense, and they have to pull back because they can't. Their positions are no longer optimal because the positions were designed with 5 players in mind. So what that then means is that as a T side, you're able to, ideally, if you get like a kill really early on, we talk about this in cast, if you get a pick very early on, the most ideal scenario is actually you wait a little bit, because then what happens is you might think, oh, you're waiting, but then you're allowing them to kind of set up and get into position again. Well, it depends on the situation, of course. There's always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, one of the reasons why it's cool to actually wait is because there's subsequent reset up with, let's say, 4 players. Let's say it's a 5 versus 4 or a 4 versus 4. The CTs being the 4. That subsequent setup is going to actually be much easier to predict. And if you know more likely what they're doing, then it's easier to actually play against that. And if let's say you do have this is the thing with the terrace, right? You can bum rush, or not necessarily bum rush, you don't have to bum rush, but you can use the strength of numbers to attack and coordinate onto a bomb site. And if there's only 2 guys there, and you're pretty golden in a lot of situations. So boom, you've kind of abused the fact that they've had to change their setup, which is more or less what the rotations are. You can get a bit more complicated on this when you start throwing in the ability to actually get fakes in there as well. Because once you've killed a player and you add like a fake to the mix, then things start to get pretty interesting, because, and this is something you can see, I think there are some teams that do this quite commonly on Overpass, for example, because Overpass is pretty nuts how you can throw nades everywhere on Overpass. But if you've got, so there's another situation, right? This is important before I delve too much further. So we've established, what can tend to happen when CT loses a guy. It's pretty simple stuff. But more importantly, we've got to think about the CT's reaction then, because typically speaking, CTs don't necessarily have to look for information when they're a full 5-man setup. It is useful because if you're thinking, okay, we want to actually defend the bomb site, we need to know or rather, if you want to win the round, you need to know exactly where the T's are going to be attacking. Because let's say you have that knowledge. If you have that knowledge, perfect defensive setup. The T's will be in a lot of trouble and disadvantages because they're moving forwards through positions, whereas you are holding positions, enabling you to take more shots, have more setups as a team, and have good counter grenades to slow them down, hinder their position taking process, or even get kills on them when they're blind, or force them to run through fire, or deny them places to move that they want to go so they can set up the bomb plant. All the onus is on the T's in this instance to try to get the bomb plant, whereas for you it's all about the defense initially, until of course the bomb goes down, then the dynamic changes. So in this instance, what happens with the CT side is when they lose a player, there's a lot of maps where it's going to be easier than others to actually go and get that information. So for example, one map where you can see this dynamic in play. This video is kind of turning into a little bit more than I wanted for the intro, but anyway, some maps where you see this in play, for example, let's say it's Cache. Cache, one of the reasons I love Cache actually is because it's got everything. I feel like it's got more or less everything going on from a strategical standpoint. There's so many options. But what you can do as a CT is, okay, we're down a man. Boom, let's push B storage together with 2 players. Get a guy dug in on Toxic. Very favorable position, very forward position. Gives us good warning if the CTs or the Ts are attacking into the B bomb site, because you can also actually see the vent room from there as well. So if they're actually going in the vents and going onto the bomb site, at least you've got a guy in B storage, which is actually still pretty useful, even if they're circumventing that position. But what I like actually more sometimes, it's not done as much, is the A main take as well, because again you have forward information and it allows the CTs to react a bit more quickly. So you're taking a risk, because when you're at a disadvantage, you need to take a risk to get information or to somehow level the playing field, whether it's on the player count or whatever it's going to be. So one of the reasons why, circling back, one of the reasons why Train is one of the less interesting maps is because it doesn't have the rotation dynamic nearly as much as the others. It does still exist, but it exists in a much more minor aspect. So and we can go into that. And pretty much now, actually, I can explain that as we look at the demo, because I've been waffling on for a while, and I guess maybe if any of you are watching, you can do a timestamp, so that's if someone who's more interested in just skipping all the intro and some of the basics here that we've talked about can just jump straight into the match analysis. I won't be covering too many demo rounds, sorry, but we'll try to get a fair few in there, and we'll see what we can work with. Okay, so let's jump into the game, and I'm going to load the demo. Which one is it? There we go. No, is it that one? There we go. I have a scene switching thing. Is it gonna work? That's the question. Is it going to work? Yes, it does. Oh yeah. Okay, that's good. Somewhat of a good start. Okay, this should do the trick. Okay, so first things first, I'll just quickly talk about this point that I was going on about, because I can draw on the map now. So the thing about this map is that when it comes to abusing rotation, typically the CTs can play in a manner where you can have a lot of players in the yard, and basically the players in the yard, depending on how you actually want to hold it, it probably looks something like this most of the time. Of course, this guy here could be between these two positions, depending on how he wants to play the alley spot, and depending how your general approach is, because some teams do play further back. This is a more aggressive setup, a setup where you're worrying about attacks that can come from T main and pop dog and T main, because you want to. This is really good if you can shut these down ahead of the smokes, which tend to cut off this part of the site. But anyway, I digress a little bit. If let's say the T's get a pick on one of these players that's in the yard area, well, the rotation between the bomb sites is actually so quick that it's not really a big deal, and the retakes on B are so much easier than they are on A, meaning that you can kind of stack towards A most of the time, and because the journey to B is so fast, it doesn't really matter. So the information game is not really that important, as the CTs in this map. You can play very reactively most of the time. But we'll just look at the demo and see how that kind of plays into factor into some of the rounds we're going to be looking at. So first things first, we've got the pistol round here between these two teams. And one thing to pay attention to is the initial CT setup. We'll look at that first. So I'll just zoom forwards and we'll get to the CT setup and we can explain. I think that actually the CT setup will probably reiterate what I just said. So for some reason it's a little bit pause, but it's sped up quite fast. So should be over this in any second. There we go. Okay, boom. There we go. Oh, that's the wrong button. So we pretty much got the basic CD setup here. Now this is much less forward than than I kind of drew on the map, because with the USPs you want to use the ranges. You want to try to use the ranges as much as you possibly can, because they are much more favorable at the range. The Glocks are going to be much better closer up than they are at range. So that's one of the reasons why you see more passive setup here between these two teams. And one thing as well, which is really good, is that you got Kiyoshima and Kenny S directly supporting each other, because it is quite powerful if the Ts are actually able to get behind the CTs in a round like this, and that's one of the more scary things. So this is the reason why you actually have two players here. It means that they can trade properly against any aggression that's coming this way, and they can of course play both sides. So that's pretty important. It is quite scary to have players coming in from all angles, but again, you always have this risk as the Ts. If you split up too much, then things can rapidly go badly for you if one guy doesn't get a frag. Anyway, let's watch how the actually hang on, I should probably explain then also the setup here for the Ts. So the idea here for the Ts is they've got the bomb dropped here in the white halls, and of course they're basically leaving themselves the option to double back through to Pop Dog into the A aggression if these guys get a kill. But the thing with these two guys here is that I think Flamey will be the guy that's first. But so yeah, if Flamey goes in first and he gets to like this position but can't get a kill, and Cease is behind him, Cease is gonna have to basically go out so far and be so exposed. His likelihood to get a kill, a follow-up kill, or the refrag, the revenge kill, is very unlikely. So if Flamey is not able to get an entry here, and Cease can't help him in that moment, then Cease is going to have to go back, because there is just nothing that he'd be able to do in that situation. However, if he gets a frag here, then obviously they can make the call, they can get the bomb, and they can go down Pop Dog and try to attack into A, so they're all attacking together. Or equally, you can actually make an argument, it depends on the team in this kind of situation, it's marginal. They can just hit B really hard, because what will happen is the attention will be turned towards the alley area quite rapidly. So it really depends how well it goes here. If they kill two players here pretty fast, then you're going to want to take the play into A. If there's one frag, and it's a little bit of a prolonged engagement, you want to probably just go into B. So it's a pretty nice pistol round from Na'Vi, and we're just going to auto director here, see how things go. Ooh, another really cool thing here. So we just saw MBK actually throw this incendiary. Ooh. Let's go back to MB. In fact, I could just use the overview. So we just saw the incendiary land around here. Now the cool thing about this is that the incendiary, I mean, let's say MBK had a smoke instead of incendiary. Well, the Ts can just run through the smoke, right? The cool thing with the incendiary is that if they want to push the rush through, let's say they get a pick here or something, and they decide to call this rush, right? This incendiary is down. The only way to get rid of it, and you don't want to take the crucial damage, because most of these players are going to be left pretty weak. They're probably going to take like 30 to 40 damage on all the players. That's way too much damage, and it's going to make the round much more winnable for EnvyUs when the bomb goes down, and much more likely that MBK will get multiple kills, right? So to get rid of that, you have to drop the smoke if you want to go in at that timing. And let's not forget, timings are really important. Sometimes you have to go at certain moments. So you have to blow the only smoke that you have, which is supposed to be here. And the reason that this smoke is so important is it's supposed to allow not only a clearer path where it's less likely you guys will get picked off going down the ramp, so you can keep everybody alive, so you get the bomb plant, but also so you can push up the train yard as quickly as possible. Because the issue for the CTs is if the Ts can lock down this choke point. If they get into these positions around the choke point, there are a lot of issues for the CTs. However, if the CTs can claim this area, and you'll often see two CTs around these kinds of areas to try to hold passively, and you might see MBK pull back there actually, depending on how he considers his options. All you need to do to win this round, you can let the bomb get planted as the CTs. Just hold this part, and there's nowhere apart from this area for T's to actually hold. There's just nothing that they can do. It's very unfavorable. So, you know, we're going to go and see how this works. Again, pretty cool to see the incendiary there. And we're going to actually see something again, because I did do this earlier, this round, actually, and I'm re-recording it now. I had, I got to a point and I started to feel very ill, so I had to stop and decided just to scrap it and go. And even though it was actually quite a good recording, but I decided to scrap it and redo it anyway. It's always better on the second attempt. So I don't think I missed anything so far. But you can see that Na'Vi, they did lose Flamey, as mentioned, and Seized has gone all the way around. You can see that on the minimap right now, he's gone all the way around, and they're deciding, okay, let's hit inner together. So now we're going to see the 5 versus 4 for EnvyUs against an inner push. So I'm just going to move to Happy here. So this is a cool thing here, right? We already talked about the purposes of smoke, right? Now, I'm going to be uploading another video, and it will talk about how important distraction is. One of the things about this smoke is that if there is distraction and Happy pushes through this smoke, it finds the right moment to push through the smoke, the round is basically over. That is a really scary thing with this smoke, and a lot of people understand that these days. So you usually have a T player that watches for this push that Happy is definitely going to make. You can see how he's just waiting for this. There's a frag, there's more engagements, he hears all the firing, and boom. None of them can even look at him. So it's just an auto win almost. So we've got to be very careful at watching for the guy that pushes the smoke. And if there's not many players left on the T side, sometimes they don't have the ability to actually invest someone in looking at that smoke. So it's a bit of a judgment call for you know, the player in Happy's position. But anyway, so we're gonna have the anti-eco or the anti-force buy here for EnvyUs. And this is another thing about this map, right? So because you can't play against rotations so much, and again, playing against rotations is about or rather, if you have a pick-based strategy, it's about trying to find frags and then abusing rotation to then better inform your play. And you can do that with pistols. Let's say just one deagle headshot, if you find that, then boom, all of a sudden you've got a lot of potential calls to work with. But this is, of course, you know, just going to be about facing and finding frags. So there's nothing too interesting about this round from Na'Vi. I do believe Kenias is a bit of a savior in this round, if I recall correctly. But yeah, you know, typically force buys like this are going to have a fairly low percentage to actually win the round, but they're pretty damn cost efficient and very reliable in actually picking up damage to the CT economy. We are going to see a bit of damage here. Let's skip up a little bit. I'm just watching this to see Kenias kill some people, basically. He's already got one kill. There's another one. Give us another one, Kenny. Come on. This is very awkward. He's actually the last guy left here. It's really awkward, actually. So Na'Vi had done pretty much what is more or less expected, which is damage, a lot of damage. But they haven't got what they really wanted, which was, of course, the round win. And if you consider that they actually did get the bomb plant, it's kind of annoying because it means they have to save now. Had they saved here, they would have been able to get AKs in the next round. And that's kind of the scary thing, is that the CT side can't really... Actually, let's just think about this for a second, because in my opinion, you got this situation. We go back to camera. Yeah, you got this situation whereby, like, when you have the bomb plant, $800 for everyone, you lose the round, you get your $1,400, and then on the next round you get your $1,900. So that's going to be, if you spend like more or less everything. Okay, I'm really putting myself on the spot here. 1,400 plus 800, so 2,200, and then you've got the 1,900 on top of that, so 3,200 and 4,100. So you have like a really decent buy with AKs right after, and the CTs, especially, you know, they are going to probably buy. They should be buying FAMAS and stuff. But generally speaking, you're going to have a big range advantage. Like the advantage you have in the pick-based game is going to be really heavy, because the AK is going to really outperform the FAMAS. And if they sacrificed in the FAMAS and managed to go for, let's say, you know, some rifles, then he didn't do any damage, then it is possible he might have some nades. But I do prefer on a map like this, where the outside pushes are so strong and there's so many big ranges, I prefer the faster AK buy personally. I think that's got a really good chance to win. But again, you know, you can make arguments either way. The problem is that there's eventually we're gonna have enough statistics, like actual data and trends, or trend analysis, that you'll be able to actually say when the buy is like this, these in top 8 level matches, these counter buy, these types of buys are the most successful in this type of round against this type of buy. But we don't have the data yet, so it's all speculation. Actually means that Counter-Strike has a lot of room to change and grow based on how statistics, really will start to affect things, and coaching as well. But anyway, let's find some more things to look at. So they're actually going to force it up here, interestingly. So I was going to skip this round because I thought it'd be uninteresting because I couldn't remember what actually happened, but they decided to go with the force again. Now this kind of buy is actually kind of cool because generally speaking, with 2 AKs you can actually do a lot of damage. So let's put focus onto Flamey and onto Seized, because basically they got to get a pick, and there's multiple ways of trying to do this. They could go in separate directions, but they're actually kind of posturing like they're ecoing here. This is interesting. By shooting the Glock there, you can see they're saying, "Oh, we've got Glocks. If you're gonna push, or feel free. We just got Glocks, no Kevlar." But now there's AKs are being revealed, and they both went to the same place to try to guarantee at least one frag. But you can see already, because they lost a player, things are starting to get really awkward and complicated. On a map like this, it's pretty rough to do a play like this, because you're pretty much just on a bomb site straight away. And the CTs don't have to move around very much because of the nature of the map. And yeah, Caesar's probably not going to have a good time here against Kenny. Yes, he's got the orb. And Flamey's... Oh, actually, Flamey might be the first to be seen. Yeah, so they actually have a good setup here. And they'll get both frags. Actually, that's actually ended up working out pretty nicely. Just a bit of patience. And the way that they were basically covering for each other with those positions, very good. Now, they've obviously created an opportunity for themselves here. So that was likely the plan all along, was to try to just get the initial fragging opportunities from here, and then work their way up into these positions. I think it was like, yeah, it's like this. Something like this, basically. These lines are horrible, but yeah. Cool little strategy. You can see that this is something that they've definitely thought about before and pre-planned. So obviously now they've got a pretty significant advantage, because if we look at all the space that they've got under control, they've got all this space, they've got this space, they've got all this space. So you can see the CTs are really constricted, but they still don't know where the bomb is going. They haven't seen the bomb yet. So at this point, you just want the T's to basically move together into the A site, generally speaking. And we've got this play from Zeus where he's just trying to catch what he thinks should be a player definitely rotating by now. But I don't think they've actually seen the bomb yet. They haven't seen the bomb yet, and that's so you could argue, because they haven't shown the bomb towards A, that player is a little bit overzealous, because MBK is not going to move unless he sees or hears that the bomb has been spotted, because it could very easily be a fake. It is Na'Vi after all. So they are going to lose the player because of that play. And now we have... it's so impossible for the CTs in these spots. Although Flamey did give his position away by tossing that nade to connector. It's actually quite funny because he pretty much needs to throw this nade. I think almost everyone would... I don't know if almost everyone would throw this nade, but... Because he can't know that there is definitely a CT like really nearby. But obviously he gave his this is a really sick engagement that he has there, but he completely fussed that because he basically gives the cue with the trajectory of the grenade. So that's pretty sad. Anyway, next round, I want to get into some interesting rounds here, another buy rounds versus buy rounds. And I'll probably highlight why... Oh, did they actually buy here? I think that's for an AK. Yeah? Okay, interesting. So they're actually buying up with AKs, and they don't have any nades. Okay, well, I guess, in a situation like this, you expect a huge contact play outside, like a pretty fast one, or a delayed one, which basically just worries about the pre-nades, and then once the pre-nades are gone, you just kind of go for it. Or, it's like they're actually going to go for a B play. Now, the thing of the B, they do have a single smoke, so I guess they're going to see the same smoke that I was talking about earlier. So all MBK has to do, and you can see how passively he's holding here, is hold this point, and if the CTs have this under control, they'll win the rounds. It's almost always, if the numbers are okay. But obviously MBK already getting insane damage. This is round over already. So This is definitely round over. I'm just going to skip. Yeah, there's literally nothing that the T's can do here, unless it's like a ridiculous individual play, basically. But from like a tactical and strategical perspective, the CTs have an insane advantage, and indeed, they will win the round. So let's go on to the next one. And Na'Vi have been doing some kind of crazy pressure with a lot of buys so far. Okay, finally we're going to get the buy versus buy, and Guardian's going to take the AWP, and we're going to get 2 AWPs, Happy and Kenny S. So one thing we're going to take note of is how the opening plays out for the T's, because again, it's all about how the T's want to approach this situation. The CTs don't really have to worry too much. They can play very, very standard setups, and they don't have to deviate the setups. Even if they lose players, they don't have to deviate that much on what they're actually doing. So we've got C's doing his usual pressure game towards Ali. Now let's check out what Guardian is doing. So he's actually watching for the aggression in secret. It's quite smart to do this actually, because it's very, very unexpected to see an AWP here. And so far he's going to spot pretty much nothing at a timing in which he expects at least 1 peak. So not wanting to waste too much time in the round, he's going to give up the ghost initially just to check Pop Dog to make sure there's nothing going on there as well. And C's is still just, we can see he's just waiting towards Ali. So the problem here is that, I mean, well, it's not a problem, but the idea here is that they're just waiting for a pick in kind of safe, guaranteed areas. So this is a very passive picking opening for the early phase of the round. And what this does is it keeps you safe against aggression. If you manage to get a pick, then obviously you can decide to make a call to go for a, you know, either a B or an A round or whatever you fancy doing, based on who you killed and so on and so forth, and what other players you have in which positions. But Na'Vi are actually doing like a kind of 2-step approach from what I can see. It's going to be the picking phase, passive picking phase, into an execute if nothing happens. This way they don't risk losing a man, and again, if you're doing an execute, you need every man, every nade. So they're not risking losing a man, but they are making sure that they can capitalize if EnvyUs get even a tiny bit aggressive. And we can see that we actually have the opposite. Everybody's playing far back, and this is actually somewhat important, because let's say you play Kiyushima and Apex in these positions, and the smoke execute goes down, and Kiyushima and Apex, let's say they don't get many frags. Then you've got a situation where you got 2 orbs and MBK and a rifle trying to retake this bomb site when the smoke's up. That's really not going to happen very much. So it's pretty nice that they're going to just rely on supporting the orbs properly with their setup. I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they're playing so passively here. And you can see that it's we've got pretty even trades coming out here. But you do, like, AWPs do very, very well when you can take the pressure off of them with some supporting rifles, and we're seeing this work quite well here for EnvyUs. So Na'Vi's little execute didn't really go as planned, according to plan. So let's go into the next round. I mean, it's quite, again, like there's not too much to say about how's their money. Okay, it's not too much to say about the CT setups, to be honest, because they're going to be very, very typical. Either you play aggressive into Pop Dog / E-Box and main, these kinds of positions, to defend these choke points directly. Or what you do is you play defensively or passive, like we saw them play last round. And again, the strength of the passive players, you can really help support the AWPs. If you've got more rifles, then you can create awesome situations. Here, just playing 2 rifles off of each other, which is really, really good if they're doing the executes, because the smokes will be down here, so you'll be in front of the smokes, and you can basically thin out the numbers before they actually get to the bomb site. Very, very nice approach as well. Depends on the team and how they like to play, but with double AWPs, you can see they're running the same setup. They really want to create a support network for the 2 AWPing players, which is pretty important. So this time we're looking at the T setup. We see smokes down from the CTs. They've thrown 2 of their smokes. This is CT smoke. This is a CT smoke, I think. Yeah. Oh no, maybe this one is. No, this has to be a CT smoke. They've only thrown 2. No, they've thrown. Okay, they have thrown 3. Okay, my bad. Okay, so these are all CT smokes. That makes a lot more sense. And behind these CT smokes, of course, we've got MBK in his usual position again, and it's basically the same setup here for the CTs. The difference here is that we've got Na'Vi with 3 guys towards Ali. Thank God that they haven't brought the bomb Ali, because this is a mistake that sometimes teams make. And if you bring the bomb Ali, then you're committed, pretty heavily committed towards the A site or Ali basically. And if something awful happens there, you don't get an opportunity to change the round because the bomb is down there, so you have a very bad time. So generally speaking, we're going to have a good situation here for Na'Vi if they're able to get the picks here. But this player is very committed into getting these kills. And one of the things about these two setups I was talking about is this is really sick, in my opinion, as a response to a team that's playing forward on the choke points. Because if you imagine if the team's playing forward on the choke points, you're going to have a guy that's maybe in this position, and this position, and this position. But instead, we've got a guy in this position, and these positions. So they have much more ability to like go and help each other and flash for each other. So that's a pretty big deal, in my opinion. I feel like because of that, the round is looking great for EnvyUs. But you can see it's also because Na'Vi have this boost strat they want to work, and Kenius is apparently wise to that. So now they've lost Guardian in this spot. It's going to be really hard because they have this decision. Do we recommit to try to get the pick, or how do we try to open this up? And this is another thing about Train, is that if it's another map, there's more ways to handle this sort of a spot. But for Train, it just gets worse and worse and worse, like heavily so. It's a slippery slope every time you lose a player. So we're going to see he decides to go for the ballsy play, which is good in this position. You got to get something done. He picks up the AWP Guardian and he gets the kill. So now down to a 4 versus 4, and let's have a look and see how this changes the setup of the CTs. So after about 10 seconds or so, we can see Kenny S is able to make sure that he's covering Ali. So Apex doesn't have to worry about his back. Apex is basically worrying about this choke point, Happy's worrying about this choke point. So the setup's changed quite dramatically here. The support network between these 3 players is now quite limited, all because of that pick. So what this means now is that if Na'Vi just take their numbers in through these choke points, then they can have good engagements potentially. If they want to take their numbers into B, they can have good engagements as well. Obviously, from the setup that we can see, B is the most advisable. But the issue is making sure that they can avoid the CTs taking control of connector, or even having 2 players here, because those are the 2 ways that the CTs can get an advantage back in this round. And so far, from a positional perspective, it looks like Na'Vi are going to be quite good in this round if they go for the full B play. You can see they're walking here, and okay, there it is. Look at that timing on Happy. That is fantastic. I'm not sure if MBK heard something there. I'm actually going to go back, because this is like a really, really big deal. Like Happy rotating on that timing, considering he has an AWP as well, is a round changer. Because if he rotates there, when they're like down here already, just almost on the bomb site basically, let's say they've walked down here before they're even spotted, that's a really big difference, because Happy took about 3 or 4 seconds to actually run to that position. So we're going to quickly restart the round and see what information MBK got, or whether it's just intuition. Could very well be intuition. So I'm going to have to just zoom ahead. I'll do a couple more rounds after this, perhaps. So like, oh my god! I just completely zoned. I completely zoned out there. I was thinking about something completely different. Jesus Christ! All right, we're gonna be back into it now. All right. So about 30 seconds. I'll stop around 40. Okay, I'll stop about now. Let's pay attention to what MBK can hear. Okay, yeah, he heard. So there we go. He heard a footstep. So someone made some stepping sounds a little bit too soon, I think. But it looks like they're gonna take Happy down pretty much immediately. But MBK, as always, is pretty beast on the defenses by himself. MBK is one of the best solo defenders in the game, in the business. He's very good at that, and that's going to make a big difference here. And looks like Kenius will clutch it. So really close rounds. And if we look at the storyline of the round, we had C's make the refrag when Guardian failed the boost over the smoke, losing out to Kenny S. Then we had after that refrag, it made it a 4 versus 4, and they just all went inner basically. And what we saw here, the evolution of the setup basically, or de-evolution, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Basically, that was what what I was talking about before. Was like, how does the rotation get affected on this map? It's just positional differences, but they're harder to read than on other maps. I'd say it always depends, but yeah. So let's check out another round. Do they have a buy? Yes, they have a buy. Wait, EnvyUs don't have a buy? Okay. When do EnvyUs buy? Okay, here. Okay, cool. Alright. Okay, so what do we got here? What do we got here? Two AWPs, so the same setup here for the CT side. And it's interesting that EnvyUs have chosen the AWP approach against Na'Vi. The double AWPs have like made a resurgence on the CT side of the train. It used to be that people were too afraid of the smoke executes to actually go for those plays, but we have seen that difference now. So you can see Kanias is looking for this smoke trick again, and being on point with all the trends is very important. So again, we're looking at basically a very safe picking phase from Na'Vi that develops into some secret control, some slight pressure towards Ali to get a pick maybe. But what they don't do is they don't try to pick here, and this one of the reasons is because they know the double op is alive, and the CT should always get here first, or almost always. So, and basically this engagement, there is a big risk. You can get a kill, yes, maybe, but you can also die. So you have to question, what is the more reliable outcome if you want to play consistent rounds? If you want to play consistently, you don't want to start around with a coin flip. You want to start around by taking a bunch of like a series of edges against your opponents to try to win them over, or get the kills basically, instead of just essentially what could be a coin flip, or even worse for you than a coin flip. Generally speaking, because you know that there's AWPs on the map, so it's very smart, and I like that Na'Vi are not trying to challenge here early on for the picks necessarily, at least not in these angles. You can go deep and try to look over the trains to see what's going on, but yeah. One thing you'll notice that Na'Vi haven't really been doing is rushing people into the yard. They tend to play a slower style where they try to play more consistently and try to build into the yard control based on playing more round time. And the more round time you play, again, the more opportunities you could potentially get. Because what if the CTs want to mix something up? What if one of these rounds they do get a pick early on? If they played the round really fast, then they may otherwise not have gotten that pick, which would then have made the round easier for them. So anyway, after the initial safe passive picking phase, we're seeing the movement into secret. The bomb's obviously in this position. They could definitely leave a lurker in pop dog, and he could go into this direction to try to backstab, which is quite effective. So let's see what their overall plan is, because we are going to see the execute nades in there, and I won't talk about like the execute the nades exactly, because we've already talked about like what is effective to do on the site, like how you have to actually like I already described what the T's need to do to make the CTs retake much harder, and what the CTs need to do to make the T's retake or hold of the bomb much more difficult. And basically, you make your execute to exploit those edges basically. So we've got the nades coming in, and this is the perfect thing here, because already EnvyUs have either spotted the trend or figured out that Na'Vi are much more likely to go B after these these passive picking phases. Then and I'm not sure if they got the information or if they're just guessing here, but they are going into B, and Happy's already in position. He's already in this position. This is sick. Again, this is such a strong hold. There's no way that it was very unlikely Na'Vi should be able to get forward into connector to actually stop the rotations. So we'll be able to see some of the engagements here. And I mean, there is very limited smokes here. Look how late the smokes are. I mean, it does afford Guardian the opportunity to get some frags with his AWP, which is good actually. So that's kind of the trade that you have there, the natural trade. It's like, okay, our smokes are going to be a little bit late. What this does is it allows Guardian to maybe get a shot onto the initial guy that's holding, and the guys that are rotating, Now, well, you know, we can make it safe for my teammates to spread out on the site with a delayed smoke. So initially Guardian gets the open space to pick from, and then the smoke comes down. You have some basic trade-offs here, because in an ideal world, you don't need to put any smokes down, because if you put no smokes down, you can get down the yard much faster, and you can keep the smokes for more forward positions. But yeah, it worked out quite well for Na'Vi. We can just look at their execution of that once again. See if you can spot anything else. And so yeah, pretty much as described, normal picking phase into the B execute. And I have a slow motion here, so get the flashes. Okay, not the player I wanted to see. Happy's taking shots. Okay, so Happy's going to get the pick on the bomber. And there you go. So Guardian gets the opportunity before a smoke comes in to be able to actually get rid of one of the players here at range. Pretty important. Now usually, again, as I mentioned in this situation, because the T's are so cramped and we get all these angles like this for the CTs, it's usually pretty favorable for the CTs to just push together because they're all facing one direction and there's not much in the way of cover or trains to really worry about. You can't really get behind the CTs easily like you can on the A site. But we are going to see, of course, the kills get made here by Na'Vi, and it's basically all Guardian, it would seem. Okay, the bomber's not even down yet, so this is actually not... This execute is kind of failing horribly, but Guardian is picking everybody off, it seems. So look at this cover here, he's reading the situation well. Again, if you look at the way the smokes are, smoke here, Guardian can see both this angle where MBK is coming, and he can see up here. So basically Guardian can just wreck everyone, and MBK is more or less going exactly where Guardian is expecting. So, oh, Zeus as well. So it's not really much of an issue. Of course you have to worry about people pushing the smoke, and I guess in that position where Zeus was more close to covering the right angle there where MBK was, Guardian's thinking, okay, I need to be careful that someone's pushing the smoke at the same time, which is why he was looking to the left. And yeah, so it's just basically individual skill that really saved Na'Vi in this situation, and a lot Guardian getting that initial kill onto Happy, and then Apex. Okay, so boom, the round is won by Na'Vi. Let's see if we can check out another one. It's quite funny because although you can create like a story from doing a commentary, you know, let's say a narrative or of how, you know, what a team is trying, the kinds of rounds that they're building strategically, and the kind of responses they're getting, and whether they're going to adjust or if they're going to just, you know, stay a step behind and so on. It's much easier to get a real picture of what people are doing by watching the demo. Like, it's you get it because you can also check the in-eyes perspectives. You can satisfy your curiosity. As a caster, we don't do the spectating, so it's harder to do that. You have to kind of go off of what you see on the minimap plus what your observer is spectating, which can often be auto-director as well for your narrative. So this is interesting. I'm not sure if the read on the money is worse, or this is just a mix-up. It's actually possible that Na'Vi think that EnvyUs cannot afford AWPs here. I would like very much to know the answer to that, but I'm not sure whether or not that would be true. So that could explain why Guardian's going here, having not really challenged this before. And you can see Happy's in position. He's already waiting. I'm going to just go to his POV. Okay, nice. So you see Guardian actually took a shot. Let's see where Guardian took the shot to. Probably Ali, I guess. Let's just check really quick and see where Guardian was shooting towards, because he didn't even bother to try to challenge that connector angle, which is good. Let's just speed it up a little bit. Okay. So slow motion. Oh, of course, yeah. We saw that wallbang, didn't we? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's actually possible to kill Happy. By the way, a connector. If you didn't know that, actually happened at the major. I think pretty ridiculous. Or if it didn't happen at the major, it happened at Face League or something. It was. I remember seeing that. It's just completely bonkers. Okay, so EnvyUs going with the same setup as usual, and they already lost Kenny S to Flamey by Ali. So the Flamey seized combo proving successful ever still. And this is quite cool because we can actually see how the round will develop now that Na'Vi get a pick. Because one sign of a team, or like how a team thinks about CS, is to look how they deal with this situation. Because I described this in the intro of the video, right? I described when you get the pick as the T's, and it's a 5 versus 4, even a 4 versus 4, it's very interesting to see how the T's will play that advantage, because you can play off of against the rotations. Now we can see if actually what I want to do is I want to go back to the exact moment where the kill was made, and I want to look at how the CT rotation is on the positions. And when I say rotation, I don't necessarily mean rotating to other bomb sites, but just general repositioning to compensate for the player lost. Okay, so it is Flamey that made the kill, so let's go to Flamey. So actually get the in-eyes of how he made the kill. So, pop flash there for him, and so nice pop flash there. That pop flash costs absolutely nothing, $200, and it saves you from getting rushed down, and you can even capitalize on it. So, okay, so let's check the rotation now. So let's lost the guy on Ali. Kiyashima and Apex are going to stay in position there because of the potential for a push. The smoke goes down to hold them off, but there's a lot of pressure now on them. Now Happy's really key, because the thing that could really destroy EnvyUs in this position is if Guardian gets the AWP out of T main, because of course he would get angles potentially onto Apex and Kiyashima, and if these guys are getting shot at from over here, then there are going to be really serious issues for then the alley defense, and these guys will be moving around. Then if the push comes in at that point, you got this perfect storm more or less for Na'Vi. We can see MBK is playing all the way back here. He's got a rifle as well, so it's very unlikely he's going to get a kill from here. He's just planning to stop them from getting forward positioning. He needs to survive and delay. That's more or less MBK, what he's saying with this position. The closer he goes, the more committed he is to actually getting kills, and then basically saying, I'm going to die, but I need to get 2 kills before I die. And so here we go. This is interesting actually, because Na'Vi have shown a propensity to go for the B play off of advantages. We saw them do that off the 4 versus 4 earlier. So that could be the reason why we see 2 players here now, Happy moving through to support MBK, because we see a 2-2, and usually we get something more similar to like something like this, basically, which they were in this setup just previously, and something like this. This is a normal setup when you're 4 players on this map, because the guy who's here can quickly rotate here with an AWP. But instead, what Happy's done is he's gone all the way down here, which is kind of interesting. So this is likely due to the fact that they've seen so many B plays off of the advantage from Na'Vi. And, well, they would be right in this instance, because they haven't got any conclusive evidence just yet to suggest that that's what's going to happen. Although Kiyashima will make the kill onto Flamey here, which is quite nice, but simultaneously we're going to get the frags and MBK as they come in for the push. So this 2-2 setup ended up working really nicely, but because the CTs are lacking players, we got a really good call here to double back into A through Pop Dog. This is the beauty of this map for the Ts. This little maneuver is so fast, and they get a chance now, because look at the position. They're already on the bomb train, got control of connector. CTs have to go through the choke points. This is a smart move from Na'Vi, and they're going to win the round from it as well. So I mean, you'll note how we'll have like a series of good plays from both teams here, but it will be Na'Vi that have the last laugh in a sense, because they had a very good timing with the double back. And also, Happy was so far out of position. That was really the sacrifice there. Happy was just so far out of position, he couldn't rotate fast enough. And even if he could, they're kind of stuck here. And this is part of the beauty as well of this little maneuver that I was talking about. Not only is it very fast, but if you do this maneuver at a point where they think it's going to be B and they shuffle players through these positions, they have to come through these positions again, which are highly unfavorable. And if the smoke goes down here, the CTs are just really stuck there for a bunch of time, which means that the Ts can go pretty much anywhere on the defense. It's ridiculous all the positions that the Ts can hold feasibly after the smoke goes down in this position. So very favorable for Na'Vi there. And I think we've seen a few cool things here. I don't want to complicate it too much, but I think I'll end the video there. So as we have been going for almost an hour, so hope you enjoyed my ramblings there. thank you for watching. Hopefully, well, I'll try to do more. I've got to do some videos. I've got to do a video for FPL right now, and tomorrow, what am I doing? Maybe I can make another one tomorrow. We'll have to see. I think I'm actually. I think I've got meetings and stuff tomorrow. Okay, well, I'll try to get some more out because obviously I'm not doing too many broadcasts in the next few days, so I'm gonna try to get a few more out because it's kind of cool to. It's good for me because I don't. The problem for me is that I don't often get to watch demos anymore because I used to do this quite a lot, but so many broadcasts just don't get the time to actually sit down and properly watch a game. Like there's a lot of stuff I know about the game from watching it all the time, but I learned more stuff directly about Na'Vi and their tendencies from watching that demo. More stuff that can kind of allow me to make connections in my mind. Okay, Na'Vi like to play like this, saw this in this demo, saw these triggers, and then also about EnvyUs, how their CT rotation was working there specifically. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed that one, and stay tuned for more.